The title, WarioWare Get It Together, is not self-explanatory, but once you dive into the game and discover the core concept at play, tackling over 200 brand new microgames with a team of around 20 different playable characters, you start to understand what makes this entry in the WarioWare series unique. The WarioWare titles have always been about the microgames, weird, eclectic little challenges, most of them shorter than your average Mario Party minigame, at only a few seconds long, and Get It Together is no exception. The microgames are still the main focus here, but what differentiates this new edition from its series counterparts is now we're putting control of around 20 different characters from the WarioWare universe, each with their own unique control style that puts a different spin on each microgame. From the game's initial reveal, I wasn't sure how I'd feel about this whole changing characters thing. I was worried that it wouldn't be more than just a silly novelty and would actually detract from the core WarioWare experience. But boy, was I wrong. I absolutely love Get It Together's character swap mechanic, as it adds yet another element to the already fun, frantic, and unpredictable action WarioWare is known for. Now, in addition to trying to learn how to beat new microgames on the fly, the element of learning how to beat them with certain characters is added into the mix. For example, trying to reach the goal in this cross microgame with Wario is pretty straightforward, just hover on over to the other side. But trying to beat it with 18 Volt, a character who can't even move without grappling onto these golden rings, and it's a different story entirely. This is really what makes Get It Together shine. While making my way through the game's story mode, I was consistently presented with these moments where I was taken by surprise by a microgame that I'd previously faced, due to now having to complete it with a different character and entirely new control scheme. Speaking of the story mode, Get It Together actually has a narrative that ties the microgames together this time around. There really isn't much to the story aside from Cash Crazy Wario and his friends working in a video game development studio and getting mysteriously sucked into the video game world, tasked to fix bugs throughout each of the game's levels. You can breeze through the story in just a few hours, but despite this, I had a really good time traveling around the map and rescuing different members of the WarioWare crew, and completing a series of different microgame challenges at each waypoint. Each time you reach a new level in story mode, you're introduced to a new character with a new method of control, which keeps things fresh and interesting as you progress. Each level's microgames are loosely tied together with a theme too, ranging from nature to sports to everyday life and much more. Of course, 9Volt's Nintendo themed microgames are my favorites. I have such a soft spot for those, despite 9Volt himself being a nightmare to control. Stop moving. Once you successfully clear a level, you unlock that level's character for your roster, and as your roster expands, you're able to select which characters you want to use for each story mode stage going forward. It was fun selecting characters for each level based on ones I wanted to try out or by whose controls I felt the most comfortable with. Due to the random nature of the microgames, there really isn't a strategy or best team comp when picking the characters for each stage, nor do I think it matters. But throughout my playthrough, I did find that certain characters were much better and some much worse than others. For example, Ashley can freely fly on her broomstick and shoots a simple projectile, making her a breeze to control. Microgames feel effortless and there's no second guessing the controls. Compare this to characters like Kat or Anna, who are just constantly jumping with no way to stop them, or 9Volt, who is riding back and forth on his uncontrollable skateboard. Why would you ever want to use them for any reason other than wanting to make things harder for yourself? Either way, the character diversity makes things interesting and Get It Together, and adds a whole new level of excitement and replay value. I'm honestly not sure if I can even go back to a WarioWare in the traditional style now. All of the game's characters are unlocked by surviving each of the challenges presented to you during story mode. You win by hanging on to at least one of your 4 lives through each stage's microgames and boss stage, which is essentially a souped up microgame that uses the stage's new character. However, there is a Sakurai style continue button available each time you get a game over, which lets you pick up right where you left off for a small price of the in-game tokens you accumulate from beating each level. I never used this continue button, it just felt a little too much like a cop out to me, as this game's difficulty level isn't too high, especially in story mode, but no judgments if you do though. Get It Together brings with it some of the craziest and most unpredictable microgames the series has ever seen. But if there's one thing even more creative and over the top than the microgames themselves, it's the game's art style. Throughout the game, you'll be looking at things like a jagged edge 3D donut, a Greek god's finest armpit hairs, and something that looks straight out of my 3rd grade Kid Pix project. All the while, the game presents other beautiful and more serious pieces, like this awesome title card for the variety pack game Frenemy Frenzy. The art direction in this series has always been incredible, and Get It Together certainly doesn't lack in that department. Get It Together's presentation had me, at times, grinning from ear to ear. Everything from the game's menus to the story mode maps and short cutscenes were filled with cute and funny details that exude so much charm and care for craft. Small details like Kat and Anna staying true to their control scheme and jumping up and down to see the table in this cutscene, Jimmy T's ridiculous one-liners, and even Penny's banger theme music all come together in a package that left a genuine grin on my face. The staple WarioWare charm hasn't lost a beat, and it looks better than ever on Nintendo Switch. Finally, that leaves us with the multiplayer aspect. Get It Together allows for co-op play during the main campaign, meaning you can complete the main story sequences with the help or hindrance of others. After story mode, a mode called Variety Pack is unlocked, which can also be enjoyed by more than one player. I found some of these Variety Pack minigames to be quite fun, but as a whole, the collection was pretty forgettable. Most of them are decent time wasters at best, but some are just mind-numbingly boring, like this sad attempt at a 2D platformer, during which I honestly just killed myself on purpose just to make it stop. In WarioWare Get It Together, multiplayer shines when it's kept simple and stays close to the core microgame experience, like the head-to-head survival game Duelius Maximus, which can be a ton of frantic fun. If there's one multiplayer mode I'd suggest trying, it's that one. Overall, I can take or leave Get It Together's multiplayer modes though. The random quirkiness of the microgames is great for a few minutes of entertainment to pass the time with friends, but there really isn't anything here substantial enough to sink your teeth into. In my opinion, the multiplayer options are more of a time killer and not a party game that's worth coming back to time and time again, as something like a Smash or Mario Kart would be. While having around 20 different playable characters certainly helps, Get It Together is still a small package, hence its lower price point. But the game does do a few things to accentuate its replayability. There's an achievement system called missions where you can earn rewards by completing certain milestones in the game. Consumable item rewards, or as this game calls them, prezzies, can be bought in a marketplace called the Prezzy Emporium, or gambled for in the Cluckade, a gacha-style vending machine minigame. These prezzies can be used to level up your party of characters RPG style, which helps you to unlock customizable skins and palette swaps you can then use in the microgames. All of this stuff can seem a tad pointless, but I am glad it's there. You can certainly ignore these features if you want, but it's undeniable they add a nice amount of extra depth for those who care enough to take it to that level. There's also a set of challenge microgames called the Wario Cup that rotates weekly, and if you opt in for online ranked, you can see how your Wario Cup scores compare to others around the world on the leaderboard. Pretty simple, but a cool feature nonetheless. When it comes to reinvigorating the series and taking the leap to Nintendo's uber-successful handheld home console hybrid, WarioWare Get It Together succeeds with flying colors. The game is not perfect, as it's a short ride with some useless characters and disappointing multiplayer modes, but as a full package, it's a worthy entry in this long-running franchise. Although I was a bit surprised to find that this installment didn't use any of the hardware's unique features like dual Joy-Con motion controls and HD rumble for the microgames, I'm not even sure I missed them. Before this game was announced, if I was predicting the gimmick that would be used for a Switch WarioWare, I would say motion controls and HD rumble 100%. But as we know now, this wasn't the case at all. There are no motion controls here, and you can even use handheld mode or a pro controller if you want to. I never in a million years would have predicted the multiple characters concept that Get It Together brings to the table. But that's what Nintendo does, right? Always keeping us guessing and delighting us with surprises. And it's for this reason that I'll remember WarioWare Get It Together fondly for years to come. I can confidently say it's one of my favorite entries in the WarioWare series. And for those, like Wario, who are out there looking for treasure, pick this one up. You might just find what you've been looking for.